Centralizing, buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air. Fuck them back, it's only for they bomb. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one thinks gun. Trees, laugh to your face, fight and die, cause God forgives. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social slide, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. See their shit, force a bear. Fuck them back, that's only fair. They bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one thinks gun. Trees, lie to your face, fight and die, cause God forgives. Yeah. Coming back around again.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Ron Stevens, and this is Rock the Boat Radio here on UCY. Known right now, AKA, I guess, Game On. Anyways, you know, sometimes I look at the United States and I think it's bizarre, and sometimes I look at Australia and think it's bizarre, and Britain and some of the other countries think it's bizarre, but I think we're going for gold here. I think Canada is bound and determined to be the most screwed up place on the planet. Hey, Doc, how you doing? Now, you know, a lot of people are ticked off at the police, and rightfully so in a lot of cases. You know, they don't go out of their way to... You don't hear many stories about a policeman helping a little old lady across the road, or, you know, that kind of story. And most of the stories you hear about the police are, you know, they shot somebody that wasn't armed, or they shot a mentally retarded child, or a young person, or they beat up an old man, or they tasered some old lady at the mall. I mean, it's getting absolutely ludicrous, and so, you know, I'm hoping to put that to bed, that the police are normal, caring people. And the first story I'm just going to run over quickly here because there's not a lot to it, unless I can dig some more out. But I almost fell over when I read this. I never heard of it before. Apparently, there's a trial that's being wrapped up for an RCMP officer. That's the Royal Canadian Mounted Police officer, accused of chaining child in basement. So obviously this guy hasn't been helping little old ladies across the street. This guy's got a problem. This guy would probably tase your ass as soon as look at you. But hey, we got to look up to our policemen because, well, they're becoming the new international global UN community police because they care about the community and they want everybody to think the same, act the same, be the same. And but this guy's a little different. This is in Ottawa under the trial of a suspended Mountie accused of chaining his 11-year-old son naked in the basement of the family home and starving him as taking a sudden turn towards wrapping up. Closing arguments in the case were scheduled to begin Monday in an Ottawa courtroom. Instead, after behind-the-scenes meeting with Crown prosecutors and lawyers for the Mountie and the boy's stepmother, Ontario Superior Court Justice Robert Marenger agreed to accept written submissions from all parties. Crown lawyer Mike Boyce said it's not an unusual move, but one that could result in the judge reaching a verdict sooner, possibly early in the fall. The one-time officer with an RCMP anti-terrorism unit, now 44, as well as the boy's stepmother, were charged in February of 2013 in what Ottawa police described as one of the worst cases of abuse they had ever seen. The couple, who cannot be named publicly under a court order to protect the boy's identity, face charges of aggravated assault, forcible confinement, and failing to provide the necessities of life. Those charges seem pretty light to me. Well, here's another part of the story here. Anti-terrorism, eh? The guy's a freaking terrorist. He's on the anti-terrorist squad. I think on the last show I brought up, or one of the last shows I did, I brought up a story about the bomb people, which are CMP as well, who apparently have been sexually assaulting people and running around naked at the bomb facility. I didn't know we had one, but apparently we do. And a bunch of excuses why this was going on and so on and so forth. Let me see here. Let me go through some of this testimony maybe. A Mountie accused of torturing and starving his 11-year-old son told an Ottawa court he was in a constant battle to control the boy's bad behavior. The kid's 11. There's a 44-year-old mounted policeman, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, a constant battle to control the boy's bad behavior. No, maybe that's why they're out tasing everybody and shooting everybody and beating the snot out of everybody, because they don't know how to do anything. How the hell can you not control an 11-year-old kid? A battle, he says, that ultimately resulted in him physically restraining and hurting the boy. Now that's, restrain, don't resist. That's all you hear from the police. Don't resist, don't resist, as 6 of them pile on top of some old man or some old lady or some kid. Are these people bent? Do you have to be mentally bent to wear a badge and a gun? Anyways, but in a second day of testimony in his own defense, the man whose name cannot be published in order to protect the boy's identity and his wife was never present when he hit, burned, or slapped his son. It was a war between me and my son, the man said Tuesday as he detailed behavioral problems he said he experienced with his son, suggesting the boy was often out of the control. Who the hell was out of control here? Who's got the behavioral problems? The 11-year-old kid? I don't think so. I'm living with the devil at home, says the RCMP officer. But the officer who once worked for the RCMP's National Security Unit said his wife was never present when he assaulted his son. And he never told his wife to hit the boy with a wooden spoon, the man said. In September, the boy, who was then 13, told the court that his father forced his stepmother to hit him for not doing his homework. The court heard the boy had been beaten by his father with a wooden stick and burned with a barbecue lighter while chained in the basement of his West End, Ottawa suburban home. The man and his wife each face a charge of aggravated assault, forcible confinement, and failing to provide the necessities of life. The woman is also charged with assaulting the boy with a weapon, while the man faces other charges of sexual assault, causing bodily harm, and assault with a weapon. In earlier testimony Tuesday, the father told the court the boy frequently made up outlandish stories. He described in detail a Florida family vacation in 2012, a trip he said he thought his son enjoyed. Last fall, the boy testified that during the vacation he was left tied up in a hotel room where he was forced to urinate on himself. That never happened, the officer said under questioning from his lawyer, Robert Carew. He showed the court pictures from 2 vacations where he, his wife, and 3 children appeared happy. The Mountie, now 44 and suspended from the force without pay, and the boy's stepmother were charged in February, yada, yada, yada. The court earlier heard that the boy was fed 2 peanut butter pitas a day before escaping his chains and weighed only 50 pounds when taken to the hospital. The man said his son constantly made up stories and it always frustrated him. Nothing like a 44-year-old frustrated RCMP officer with a gun and a taser and a baton and a shotgun in the car. These stories, make me want to throw up. Because in most cases, these guys cover up for each other. It's the brotherhood. His frustrations with the boy's behavior combined with problems at work led him to go on antidepressants. Now comes the excuse crap, right? Said the officer. He also testified that he attempted suicide 3 times. Well, why don't you get good at it? How the hell can you attempt suicide 3 times and blow it 3 times? And twice later when he felt helpless against his son's problems. Pull your revolver out and put yourself to sleep. Okay? I mean, give me a freaking break. You got the barbecue lighter on your kid. You got him chained in the basement. And you're frustrated with your boy's behavior? You're frustrated with your boy's behavior? And soon the boy was acting out again, even defecating on his books, the man said. In a police interview after his arrest in 2013, the officer admitted he tied his son to a wall or a pole in the basement of his home where the boy developed cuts on his wrists from the chains or plastic zip ties used to bind him. Let's see. The current portion of the trial is scheduled to run May 6th. So when was this printed? I don't know how this story escaped me. This is sad, man. This is really freaking sad. Let's see. This is from September 18th, this part. An Ottawa courtroom heard more horrific testimony at the trial of a suspended Mountie and his wife, yada, 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 yada. At the time, a neighbor found the 11-year-old in a snowbank and called the police. The boy's father was currently, the boy at 13 testified. The boy said he had tried to escape several times and police didn't do anything. One time when he managed to get away, they sided with my dad, he told the court. The police didn't even investigate when they took me home. The brotherhood. The boy testified that his father regularly beat and choked him, keeping him naked in the basement and secured with chains. He said he was forced to confess to supposed sins, including looking at girls with lust. The child said he didn't know what lust meant, and his dad explained it. He also said his father told him he was demonic. Who's demonic? Maybe daddy's demonic? Maybe the force is demonic? I mean, the kid escapes, tells the police take the kid home to daddy, who's a cop. At one point, according to the boy, he was forced to go for a week and a half without water. He said his father told him that if he was thirsty, he could drink his own piss. He would usually make me drink it, he added. When he was once caught using mouthwash to clean his teeth, his father forced him to drink the entire bottle of mouthwash. Another time, the boy alleged his father forced him to lie in a bath filled with ice cubes and cold water and then stepped on his head. That's a favorite police move if you've watched any police videos. They love to step on people's heads. That is the boot of tyranny upon your head. He puts the boot of tyranny upon his child. Now, I want to stop right there for a second, run back to the divine right of kings, which apparently give the kings and that authority to rule over the dominion because they put themselves up as the proxies of God. But the part of the proxy of God or the King James Bible or whatever is that they follow the law. law as per that book. And if they failed and they turned away from that law, then they moved into being tyrannical. And that's the boot on your head. That is tyranny. And that is exactly what we're under now. We move from the do no harm, no victim, no crime to the legal corporate system. And that is the corporate tyrannical boot upon your head. And so Daddy just wanted to get his kid broke in, I guess, for when he grew up and was going to live the rest of his life with that boot on his head. Anyways, in another incident, the boy said his father had held a gun to his head in order to repeat to him the things the child's birth mother had said about him. The boy had lived with his mother until she died in 2009. He said his stepmother also beat him with a wooden spoon, but never hit him as hard or as often as his father did. The boy said she warned him to obey his father so that he wouldn't get hurt as badly. After the parents were arrested, the couple's other two children were placed in the care of Children's Aid. Oh, there goes another mess. The parents are currently out on bail. How are they out on bail? Throughout the child's testimony, the father refused to look at the screen, choosing instead to stare at the ground while his stepmother sat with her head down. At several points in his testimony on Friday, the boy broke down crying, forcing the judge to suspend testimony. The case is being heard by judge alone and will resume this week. That is really freaking sad. Here's another sad story. I'm telling you, man, we're trying our damnedest, you know. Canada is doing its absolute best to be the most psychopathic, sociopathic, screwed up mess on the planet. And there's only 35 million of us here. We got less population in this great big second largest landmass on the planet. We got a smaller population than California. And we got this kind of crap going on. And it isn't going on by hoodlums, and that is going on by our government officials. Now here's another good one. Let me see what we got here. Former Newfoundland priest gets parole after serving 1/3 of a sex abuse sentence. Well, let's see what took place there real quick. Corner Brook, Newfoundland. Roman Catholic priest George Asinine Smith. No, it's actually Ansel. Bend over. I like your Ansel. Abused more than a dozen boys over 2 decades using alcohol, threats, and bribes with children as young as 8 freaking years old. In 2013, the judge who sentenced him to 11 years described him as a predator. Really? But in a decision this month, the Parole Board of Canada has released the retired cleric on full parole after 1/3 of his sentence, saying he is now considered a low risk to reoffend. Based on what? I have no idea. It noted that the Correctional Service of Canada rates Smith's potential for reintegration into society as high. The CSC is of the opinion that you have repeatedly demonstrated that you are fully committed to leading a pro-social life and are ready for a less structured release, the decision said. Smith was sentenced on March 13th after he pleaded guilty in Provincial Supreme Court to 41 charges. 41 frickin' charges, 38 of which resulted in convictions for sexual assault, indecent assault, and assault with intent. But somehow, he's reformed. The court heard that the offenses occurred between 69 and 89 in several western Newfoundland communities, including Corner Brook, Stephenville, Deer Lake, and Port Saunders. Judge William Goodridge sentenced Smith to 11 years, though the term was reduced to 10 years to account for the time he served in pre-sentence custody. The agreed facts revealed the disturbing details of a predator who violated his position of trust within the parish community and, in fact, used that position of trust to groom young male victims, Goodrich said in his sentencing decision. The judge said Smith's victims were typically between 12 and 13 years old when he first approached them. The youngest was 8. 8 frickin' years old. How sad is that, at least, eh? Okay, I'll just keep an eye out for that. Let's see. Okay. I know somebody was going to call in, but I guess they're not going to. Where was I in this story? Okay. Under the conditions of Smith's release, the Parole Board of Canada said Smith must avoid males under 18 in any place they might gather unless accompanied by a previously approved adult who knows his criminal history, who is also a pedophile. No, I'm just kidding on the last part. As well, Smith must not consume alcohol, avoid contact with his victims and their family, and he must not use any device to gain access to the internet. The board noted that Smith's crimes were committed against numerous young male victims. These assaults were planned and included using bribes and manipulation, alcohol, threats to gain the victim's compliance. The number of offenses committed and the frequency of your criminality are indicators of difficulties you had to self-control. They also speak to the difficulties you had to control your deviant sexual interest toward male children. The board noted Smith's previous history of alcohol abuse, though he said he had not had a drink since receiving treatment in the 90s. As well, the board said Smith participated in programs to reduce the contributing factors behind his previous crimes, and it said he met the board's expectations when he started day parole in January. The board said Smith displayed the inability to self-control for several years, which means he is considered a low risk to reoffend. The board, which granted Smith full parole on July 7th, he is now in his late 70s and is awaiting placement in a senior's home in a non-disclosed location. Smith was charged in December 2011 following a 16-month RCMP investigation. He was removed in May 2010 from his administrative duties at the St. Malachi Church in Kikora, PEI, after Bishop Richard Greco got a call from the Diocese of Corner Brook and Labrador about an abuse allegation. This is the most screwed up thing I ever seen. Then it just keeps getting more screwed up. It's difficult to believe that this crap even goes on. It really truly is. But it does. And most of the time it goes on is people that are supposed to be in a position of trust. And this is the sad part, okay? They put these people up forward as the authorities, as those in trust, and this is the kind of garbage that keeps going on. And they protect the snot out of them, each other for as long as they possibly can. They really got to mess up big time before anything happens. Yeah, it's totally nuts. Now here's a story that I'm going to kind of tag to a couple things here. They want to bring in. They want to turn us into a cashless society. Because all you people out there, you know you're guilty of not paying all your taxes. You know a lot of you are guilty of working under the table, and that's stealing, right? That's the same as putting a gun to somebody's head and say, give me your wallet. You're stealing from Mother Canada, okay? Even though they rob you blind, but then they care about you. So the abuse you get from your so-called government. Well, it's parental abuse, I suppose you could call it. Anyways, they want to turn it into a cashless society. They want to eventually put us on a guaranteed income. They want you to reduce your electricity use and water use by 75%, of which they're going to give you a credit. And once you use up your credit, well, you're out of water and you're out of hydro and whatever else, probably food. But this is, I'm not so sure if this is a real problem or it's a test. But here's another story I didn't know nothing about. Unpaid, this is the first stories I read to you were CTV. This is our Communist Broadcasting Corporation, CBC. Unpaid Parks Canada staff getting so desperate they're borrowing money from their parents. New federal pay system, that's for Duckabees, listen. The new federal pay system botches pay for more than 80,000 public servants, slaves. Our bank accounts are taking a toll. Our loans and our lines of credit are maxed, says Natasha Olsef, standing next to co-worker Scott Monroe at the Lake Louise campground. A new payroll system introduced by federal government early this year has been so riddled with problems that it's forcing some Parks Canada staff to borrow money from their parents. I can't afford to pay for gas. I can't afford to pay my insurance. I can't afford rent or food, said Scott Monroe, who works at the Lake Louise campground in Banff National Park. Since the end of May, Monroe and at least 30 other staff at Lake Louise campground have either been underpaid, overpaid, or not paid at all. His co-worker, Natasha, says she's so short on cash right now that she can't even afford to buy groceries and often relies on leftover food donated by people leaving the campground. I'm so proud to be a Canadian. I think a lot of us are taking a toll mentally, and our bank accounts are taking a toll. Our loans and lines of credit are maxed, said Natasha. She says she hadn't had her correct pay since May and often relies on leftover food, yada, yada, yada. The feds, of course, are working around the clock to fix the problem since May. They're right on top of this one, eh? The new system called Phoenix, now that scares the hell out of me, has botched to pay more than 80,000 public servants. Mary LeMay, Deputy Minister of Public Services and Procurement, said the government did underestimate the training and the time it would take for people to get used to the system. She apologized during a news conference on Tuesday. The situation is completely unacceptable, and we will be working around the clock to resolve these problems as quickly as possible. But Olaf said it's all too little, too late. They're violating the Employment Standard Act of Alberta, BC, everywhere, all over Canada. And so I'm just wondering how they are able to get away with that. There has to be money somewhere to pay your employees. The government has offered employees affected by the pay glitch the option to take out a $5,000 interest-free loan. Why should we have to do that? Said Olson. They should take out a loan, pay us, and then should owe the banks. Might as well. We'll owe the banks for everything else. But this is absolutely retarded. Now, they had no trouble whatsoever getting a ton of refugees into this country. They kicked the military out of the military bases to make room for the Muslim immigrants. And I know none of the Muslim immigrants that are coming into Canada are radicals. I realize that. Only in Canada are we allowing non-radical Muslims. They've all been checked very closely. And they all got their welfare checks, and they were all put up in hotels or in the army. Or they spent a fortune redoing the army bases to bring in the Muslims, and didn't use them. Meanwhile, they kicked out the people that were already living there. I love this. This is one of my I love this about the government, the so-called government. It's really just a corporation. But the Corporation of Canada officials say, I hope they choked on this. The officials say, sorry. That's what they said. Sorry to 80,000 employments for pay systems mess. Let me go what we got here. Phoenix pay system mess. Federal officials have apologized to more than 80,000 employees who have had problems with their pay and promised to work around the clock. Yada, yada, yada. About 720 public servants, mostly new hires and students, have not received pay. Another 1,100 have not received parental long-term disability or severance payments, while more than 80,000 employees entitled to supplementary pay for extra duties, overtime, or pay adjustments have had problems. We will do what's necessary. How can, these people are so freaking incompetent, it's ridiculous. They brought in the e-health, spent $1 gazillion on it, absolute screwed up failure. Sorry, guess you're on the hook for it, because we're on the hook for everything. How the hell these guys managed to get their hands on a non-limited credit card, call themselves a responsible government, and put us on the hook for their incompetence is how we put up with this crap is beyond me. It's absolutely astounding. Anyways, Deputy Minister said the government grossly underestimated the time and training needed to move the new system and clear out old cases, outstripping the capacity to respond. To clear the backlog, the government will hire temporary compensation advisor specialists and make technical enhancements to the system. The government is also exploring options for reimbursing employees who were hit with penalties for late loan payments and insufficient funds. The system has been plagued with problems since it rolled out earlier this year. Phoenix falling. CBC Ottawa has been collecting stories from civil servants, part-time employees, and student workers who have been hit by the Phoenix payroll system problems. Here are some of their stories. Phoenix problems make public service servant feel penalized. Public servant not getting any health or dental benefits. Cancer survivor unpaid since return to work. Single mom maxed out after 2 months without pay. Student caught in desperate catch-22. Federal goes on. Those are stories. I'm not going to look at them. We're fixing it, Bryson says. Public Works Minister Judy Foote has called the situation unacceptable and opened a temporary work center to deal with a growing backlog of Phoenix-related cases. Treasury Board President Scott Bryson said today he's frustrated. Well, yeah, are you going to go? You're frustrated. That 44-year-old Mountie was frustrated. You're going to go and pick up a little kid and chain him to a wall somewhere to lose your frustration? Is that what you're going to do? You're frustrated. You're frustrated, you dickweed. Okay, you're the Treasury Board President, and you're frustrated. What about the 80,000 people that ain't getting their paycheck? Are they frustrated? Right? Why don't they all come eat at your house? Why don't they all come live at your house, you dipshit? You can't figure out who's working for you, and you can't figure out how to write them a check. Then resign. He says he's disgusted by the situation that we inherited. Oh, you inherited it. But we're fixing it, he said. We have tremendous respect for the hard work of our public servants, and they deserve to be paid accurately and on time. Well, you ain't been doing it since May, you dipshit. Right? It's now, what are we in here? We're in the latter half of July. How long does it take to fix it? Chris Aylward, Vice President of the Public Service Alliance of Canada, was skeptical the measures would do anything to address the problems and accused the government of spouting the same rhetoric for months. Well, you don't have to accuse them of it. That's what they've been doing. He also suggested officials underestimated the numbers of people most seriously affected. I'm not really enthusiastic about what they announced today because they didn't address Phoenix. And until they do, the problems will continue, he told CBC News. It's a national disgrace. The Public Service, union, which represents 170,000 public servants of the total force of 300,000, wants the Phoenix system taken offline until the glitches are addressed. A dozen unions representing the federal workers have already filed a notice of application in federal court to force the government to pay its employees properly and on time. Aylward said the court action will proceed. So I guess if they proceed with the court action, the unions will probably get a payout. The lawyers always get a payout. The government will do whatever, borrow some more money or whatever. Maybe the employees get the money, maybe they don't, but in the end, we're all on the hook for it again. Really pathetic. Really, really, really pathetic. But hey, Canada's the best place on the planet, we're told. Now I got a visit today. Here's a couple of more local stories. But this crap's going on everywhere, right? This crap's just continually going on anywhere. I saw a article in a local paper. There's a little town about 24 miles from here, about 1,200 people. About 1,200 people. And I've seen this going on all over in rural Ontario, and I'm sure it's going on rural in the States and rural in Australia and everywhere else, is that this is all part of the rewilding project, right? What they do is they shut down the post office, they shut down the gas stations in these small communities, and then they shut down your food. And this particular little town, Lucknow, Ontario, the only grocery store in town is closing its doors after 30 years, which leaves no groceries. Now, a lot of these little towns, they have a more elderly population. Most of the young, what they did was the jobs that used to be there are all gone. They've all been moved somewhere else. And so there's really not much there to hold young people. The young people are encouraged to go to the city and join Pride, I suppose. Go to the city and figure out what gender you are. Don't listen to what Mom or Papa told you. You may or may not be a boy or a girl after all. And this kind of shit. And so what happens with these small towns is the elderly are there. Now they can't get their groceries. Maybe they got to drive a long ways to get gas. And they eventually die. I don't mean the old people, they're going to eventually die too, but the towns die. And that's the whole point. People who have to drive when they're elderly, I think they would have to drive about getting on 20 minutes to get to the nearest grocery store from Lucknow. And that's a pain in the ass, especially in this neck of the woods in the wintertime. We get some absolutely vicious snowstorms here. And so now these elderly people are going to be dependent on somebody else to go fetch their groceries for them, or they're going to put themselves in great peril heading out in the highways in these storms to go try to get some food or whatever. And so they make it more difficult to get their medical, their food, their fuel, and all of these kind of things. And eventually, some of these old-timers, they'll hang in there till they pass away, and then some will move to bigger communities, which is the plan. Make it difficult for them to stay where they are, where they grew up, where their lives were, and move them out of there because it just gets too difficult for them. and the price of fuel is really expensive, and so their cost to get groceries, if they got to, instead of going down to the corner to get their groceries, they got to drive 15, 20 miles to get their groceries. That's an added expense to people on these pathetic pensions. It digs into their pension money. With the ever-increasing taxes, the ever-increasing fuel bills, the ever-increasing electricity bills, eventually these people are going to be looking for an apartment or something that is closer to the amenities. And that really pisses me off that's going on around here. Now, I had a visit today from, I think it's the sixth, pretty sure it's the sixth one, sixth census lady was here today. I see this lady walking up the sidewalk, all happy with her little card hanging off her little chain or whatever there around her neck, and her little clipboard, and she's tripping on up the sidewalk there. So grabbed a smoke, went out to see her, and she says to me, she says, "You have two houses here." And I go, "Yeah." Odd, isn't it? And so I says, "What's up?" "Well, I'm with Census Canada." "Yeah, I see that. What's up?" "We're all done with this nonsense." And pleasantly, they've all been pleasant, confused. The first ones that were here were very adamant that we have to, by law, fill these censuses out. And if we don't fill these censuses out, well, then we will be prosecuted and likely thrown in jail, because that is the sentence for not filling out the government federal census forms. You will be jailed, son. They were quite adamant about their jobs and what the cost to me would be if I didn't fill it out. And I don't know that I've ever filled out a census form, actually. I've been threatened in the past, and I find it kind of gives me the giggles, really. Here's these little women. I'm about 6'5". I got these little women threatening me. "You'll go to jail, you know that, eh? If you don't fill this out, you're going to jail." Oh, yeah. Interesting. I remember years ago I told them, I said, "Well, where do I call?" "What do you mean?" "Well, you're threatening I'm going to get thrown in jail, so I need to know who to phone come pick me up." "What?" "Well, you said I'm going to go to jail if I don't fill it out. I ain't going to fill it out, so we should get me to jail as soon as possible, shouldn't we?" "What? Aren't you afraid?" "No." "Well, you're supposed to be afraid, because that's why we're told to say this." And then you get afraid, and then you go, "Oh, I don't want to go to jail," and you fill it out. "Well, no, I want to go to jail. And so let's call somebody." And in that case, they just went away, and nobody ever came back. But this year, holy crap. The sixth one today came in. And I said, "All right." I says, "Now the supervisor's been here several times, so I don't recognize you. Who might you be?" And I think her name was Susan or something. And she says, "So are you from here?" And she says, "No." I said, "Where are you from?" She says, "Well, I'm from Meaford." "Well, that's a good hour and a half away from here." "Well, what are you doing here?" "Well, I'm kind of the cleanup crew. And a lot of the ones that we're working, they don't want to do it anymore. And so I'm to come down and clean this up and go and talk to the people who haven't yet filled it out." And it was interesting because we had a really nice talk, and part of it made me kind of smile, and part of it scared the hell out of me. Really scared the hell out of me. And we're talking about this stuff, and I'm telling her, I've been talking to Census Canada. Actually, I'm glad you came, because you remind me that I need to call them. "Really?" "Well, yeah, because they're supposed to get back to me, and and they haven't got back to me yet. They seem like they don't want to talk to me anymore, even though they admitted that they broke the law twice already. And she goes, really? I said, yeah, like when I asked them where they got the census from. They said, we stole it. And, okay, because it's Roman, and I'm not a Roman. So then when I was talking to Census Canada, you got did you buy a franchise? You got a licensing fee you pay for this Roman census thing? No. Well, how'd you come by it? Well, we liked it. Uh-huh. So you liked it and you did, well, I guess we kind of stole it, says the girl. So you stole it from the Romans, huh? So that's against the law. You can't use someone else's property without their permission and or paying a fee because you're going to profit from this, and so you need to pay them. So you admittedly broke the law by stealing the census from the Romans, and then the guy that called me broke the law, and he was supposed to answer questions. He couldn't answer them. He ran away without properly identifying himself, which Census Canada says is against the law. So anyways, we're outside talking, and she stops and she goes to me, she goes, "Are you a lawyer?" And I said, "No, I'm not a lawyer." She said, "Well, you sure sound like a lawyer." And I said, "No, I'm not allowed to be a lawyer. I was going to be a lawyer." Because the census lady says, "You'd make a really good lawyer, I think." Well, maybe, but not likely, because my wife explained why I can't be a lawyer, and that is because if I was a lawyer, I would be in contempt of court every time I walked into the place, which would be probably true. So therefore, I'm not going to be a lawyer, can't be a lawyer. So we talked for, I don't know, quite a while. And as we talked, we talked about the windmills around here. We talked about the fact that Canada is a corporation. We talked about the fact that she can't vote. That kind of surprised her a little bit. We went through all that with her, and a bunch of other stuff. She was nice, but we got talking about the children in the schools, and we got talking about the government, the so-called government, on how it is really just a big racket, and has got nothing to do with governing the people. It is strictly about business. It's a corporation, and that we're held for surety, right? I went through that with her. I said, "How would you like it? I talk you into getting a credit card and giving it to me, and then I can spend whatever I want, but you'll pay all the bills." Now, who wouldn't want that, right? And that's what the government, the so-called government, has done. They have given themselves an open-ended credit card. Spend whatever the hell they want on whatever they want, and they don't have to be responsible for it. Even though they gave us responsible government, but then after it says they gave us responsible government, it tells us very specifically that the word responsible in responsible government does not mean what the dictionary is not the dictionary definition of responsible. So they gave us something. They didn't give us, they gave us a rash is really what they gave us. They ended up giving us a rash. But she was absolutely disgusted with what was going on in the school system. I said, you've been lied to since the day you were born. That should be a charge against the school board, because they harmed us, right? And we have a right to have that harm undone. But what they're doing to the kids today is even worse than what they did to us. And I don't understand why we put up with this stuff. And then it got interesting because she said, we're too tired. What are we talking about? We're too tired to fight. She said everybody's so tired of getting beat up and you know, with increasing taxes and fuel bills and food bills and hydro bills and so on and so forth. Everybody's wasted. They're tired. So what you tell me, my fellow so-called Canadians have no fight in them? She goes, exactly. Well, how can that possibly be? She says, all we do is work our tails off trying to keep our heads above water. You know, most parents don't have time to worry about what their kids are being taught in school. You know, and she started on like this. This is the census lady. She's pouring her guts out now. And I found that rather interesting and sad. You know, and I told her, you know, what do you mean we're too tired to fight? You know, your forefathers came here to get out from the boot of tyranny that was on their heads, to try to come here and build a better life for you. You're tired. They got on them boats. They didn't even know where the hell they were going to end up. You know, they didn't go down the travel agency and say, I booked 2 tickets to Canada. They got on these old boats, not knowing where they're going, but they knew they wanted to get out from under this foot of tyranny. So they're going to do what they can for the futures of their families, made huge sacrifices, came here and had to hack out the bush to build a house and a barn, try to plant some crops, try not to starve to death, and you tell me you're tired? And that the people of this land are tired and have no fight left in them? That's the most saddest thing I ever heard in my life. You know, they've turned us into a bunch of whiners and complainers. And you know what? Whining and complaining takes a lot of frickin' energy out of you. Whining and complaining without not pushing back makes you tired. So I think it's kind of self-inflicted here. The people have self-inflicted it upon themselves. They have made themselves tired. They have put themselves in the position of feeling that they can't do anything. And that's freaking really sad. So we talked about, you know, things that she could do and her friends could do to involve each other in the situation that we find ourselves in so that we can start to push back. Because I said, if you're tired now, what are you going to be? Because they're not going to stop on you. They're not going to stop till you're out of your house. Okay? You know, they're not going to stop till they turn your daughter into a lesbian and your son into whatever, a gay, I guess. They're not going to stop till your child comes home and says, Mom, I want a sex operation because my teacher told me that I'm not really, I have the qualities of both a male and a female. And being male, I'm more female than male and I should consider an operation. And they hold Bruce Jenner up as some kind of a thing to aspire to. And you tell me you're too tired? You too tired to stand up to this garbage that's going on in these lands? Too tired? You need to go and talk to your people where you live in Meaford. And you got to make some decisions. You think you're tired now. You keep this, you don't stand up. I'll show you tired. You think you're beat up now. Just do nothing and see how beat up you're going to be. And if you give a sweet damn about your children or your grandchildren, it doesn't matter how tired you are. You're going to get up and you're going to push it back. No, I wasn't preaching at her too hard, right? But I mean, we're having a talk. But this is how I'm feeling right now. I mean, it's ridiculous that people have no mind and no spine left. I mean, most people know right from wrong. Most people have, moral fiber. But then this juggernaut called government run over them and bend them down, got them on their knees, boots just behind your head. But we're too tired. We're just too tired. That's so sad, man. I always said that I ain't going to nobody's war. Okay? Because the whole thing of war is bullshit. But you come to my land and you want to start a scrap, I'm in. And we got to push it back. I mean, this is absolute lunacy that's going on here and everywhere else that considered themselves, above the rest or whatever, or free. How do slaves believe that they're free is beyond me. I'm a free slave. That doesn't have a very good ring to it. Well, I know, but we're not slaved as bad as some other people are slaved. Really. My suggestion is that we do a North American Union. We join America to Canada. At that point, we have the largest land mass on the planet, bar none, and per capita, we have more resources than anybody else on the planet. We take our politicians, we put them in stocks. We put them in a public square where they frickin' well belong. In the old days, it was hung them. But I'm not really into that. But we could put them in the stocks, in the public square. And then for the first time, that goes for America too, because you got Hornswoggle right coming out of the gates. But for the first time, we create a government by and for the people. And we manufacture what we require. If the rest of the planet wants to fall off, so be it. But there is nothing in North America that we cannot grow, manufacture, engineer, or produce for our people. And that gives us back our employment. That gives us back some sense of accomplishment. There's no sense of accomplishment sitting in a government office pushing paper around. That's a false economy. Absolutely false. And we're going to pay big time for it if we don't do something. But I'm confident that we will. I'm absolutely confident that we will. And we are going to get our lands back. The people are going to get their lands back. And we're going to make a big difference here shortly. So to all the people in North America, do not feel tired. I know people are beat up. I know they've been run over. I know they're overtaxed and the cost of everything's gone through the roof and your wages aren't holding nowhere. But don't get depressed. Don't get tired. Okay? This is our time. And we better bloody well use it. I hear music, that's the end of the show. Hope it didn't bore anybody, but it's Tuesday. Back here Thursday night, same time, 7 o'clock. Everybody take
lower classes, social slime, they don't matter, genocide, sick from water, sick from air, making money, they don't care, Caesar shit, force them in, fuck them back, it's only for they bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape,